Welcome to the channel. We're your hosts. My name is Quentin Horton,
And I'm Aaron Curry.
and this is
It's
Secrets
Secrets
to
to
Sexy.
Sexy. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Secrets to Sexy, where sexy isn't just about what you see in the mirror. It's about what you think, it's about how you feel, and most importantly, it's about how you show up every day.
That's real. That's real. If you're new to the channel, just know that we're all about fitness, spiritual alignment, and those inner habits that give you that outer glow so you can show up looking sexy every day. Welcome to the channel.
Yep, welcome back.
So, the topic for today's discussion is the top 5 most attractive things you can do to master your sexy. Now, here's the thing, we're gonna start from the most impactful down to the least impactful, but just remember, this is a top 5, so all of them are very impactful. Right? We're just starting off with the most essential things you need to add to your arsenal in order to become more attractive, more sexy to the world, and then going down to some of the things that are also important, but not as impactful. So, number 1, I'm gonna give it to my boy AC. What is the number 1 most impactful thing you believe people should add to their arsenal to become more attractive?
Honestly, I think the number one thing is connection to yourself, right? Through like meditation, prayer, and inner work, because at a foundational level, if you're not rooted and grounded like in yourself, if you don't enjoy and love and you're not happy with who you are, nothing else really matters. You can't get to step 2, 3, 4, 5 if you're not grounded and happy with who you are. So
Yeah.
doing that inner work and spending time by yourself and prayer and meditation and connecting to a higher being. For me, that's God. For you, that's God. For others, it might be the universe or whatever that looks like. But you have to remove your ego and know that there's something bigger than you.
Right.
And in order to connect to yourself, that is the connection. That's like your lifeline, is figuring out, okay, what is that for me? What is that thing that I'm connecting to so that I can connect to myself? Because it has to be deeper than just you, just Aaron, just Q. So that's number one.
Absolutely. So for the naysayers, I've trained a lot of people, even through fitness, and I'll get their take as far as like the personal growth thing you're talking about, meditating, getting in touch with yourself. Some of them are already millionaires, very successful, have families already. And what would you say to those people that are like, hey, I already have the success and the accolades. I don't need to go deeper within myself because I have these external things. What would be your answer to the reason why they should still continue on that path?
I personally believe that once you stop learning, you stop growing. And I think that translates to different facets of life. So for someone that feels they already have it all, they have the car, they have the fun, you can lose it just as easy as you gained it.
Yeah.
And I think that the universe and God and these things, we're gifted these things. You're not guaranteed it just because you put in hard work. You're not guaranteed it just because your family is rich or you're gifted money from your, like, none of this stuff is guaranteed. You have to maintain it and sustain it. How do you sustain it?
Yeah.
It's by doing the inner work consistently, not just, oh, I got to where I am, I'm rich, I got the car, I got the girl, I'm good. Like, what? That's crazy to think that you, like, that is back to that word ego. That's ego, to think that once you've gotten this thing or these things that you're going to keep it forever. No, God will take it away.
Oh, for sure. Happens every day.
With the snap of a finger.
Happens every
too.
day.
And I've seen it, like you
Even
said.
in current events.
I've seen it happen. So it's like, think that way if you want to, but that's a one-track mindset, and you're not going to get very far or have any sustainability with your success, in my personal opinion.
I agree. I think also there's a difference between success, success and happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Fulfillment is one of those things that can only really happen through God anyway.
Of course.
It just means that you're living in your purpose and you're operating in righteousness. So a lot of times I think we think because we have these external things, whether it's the following on social media or the car or the looks or whatever it is externally that you're seeking for validation, we think that that can bring us a certain amount of fulfillment. I'm not going to say that it doesn't bring some degree, but to truly be happy and grateful for what you have, that connection with yourself and with God is what brings that gratitude. Because I think there's a lot of people that have these things that feel entitled. It's like, yeah, I got it. It is what it is, and I am who I am. But not necessarily more fulfilled than the guy that doesn't have it, but that does the inner work so that they're paying attention to all the other elements in their life that brings them fullness. That robust satisfaction of just waking up in the morning. You could easily start taking that for granted. Whereas like, oh, I woke up, I'm supposed to, and I got a multi-million-dollar business, I'm supposed to have that. The moment you start feeling like you're supposed to anything,
that's where you're at.
That's the beginning of the end.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, now you can only really define from that. And I think God has a funny way of when
humbling
people don't appreciate it. All right, let me take it back so I was the one that gave it to you in the first place.
Man.
And stuff. So
I know someone personally, I won't say who it is, but they said one time that they were like, I did this. Like, God didn't provide this for me. I did this. And then God showed them what?
Took it all the way?
Yup.
Damn.
Quick, too. It wasn't like it's 10 years later, so it could be attributed to anything. It was like, no, this was a direct message from God to show you didn't do it on your own. So for me, I think there's a lot of people that have these things, these superficial, materialistic things that make them feel, but they're empty inside.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you think I have the money, I have the car, I have all these things, I can travel and do. You should be happy as hell. Right. But the reason you're not is because you're empty inside. Why are you empty inside? Because you're not happy with yourself. You haven't connected to self yet.
Yeah.
You haven't done the inner work. You just did all the work to get these things, but like you're not real.
Right.
It's like when people say this stuff with the Matrix, like I was living in the. You're in a matrix. You did the rat race. You did the things. You did the grind to get these things. But these things mean absolutely nothing because if you die tomorrow, you can't take any of it with you.
That's real. That's real.
You can't take any of it with you. But what you can take with you is your morals, your character. All the things that live on when you die are the things that you should be doing the work to keep and to maintain and to be better. So, yeah, I like social media following and money. I don't care if you're a millionaire, billionaire, you have $10 in your account. Your character is the most important thing to me, and your character is the one thing that you can control. Like believing that you have control, God will show you don't.
Yes.
Real quick.
Absolutely. That's real.
Yeah. And so for me, when I wake up, like part of how do you do this inner work? How do you connect to yourself? Well, prayer, meditation. And spending time in silence in the morning. Like the first 5 minutes for me, I'm praying, I'm meditating. There's no social media. I might have something funny on my mind. I want to hit Q. It's like, no, this is my time to connect to God, to sit with myself, to think about the things that are important to me, to think about if I'm living righteously, doing the right things. And then I journal, and then I have my coffee. It's like I spend that time with myself. But the whole purpose of us discussing this piece most importantly, and why it's the most important aspect, is because people are afraid to be by themselves. How many people do you know that get out of a relationship and they're right back in one? It's like, hold up, that one just ended last week.
Yeah.
How are you in love with this other person? Well, you're in love with this other person because you're not in love with yourself.
With yourself, yeah.
So for me, I love spending time by myself. I've lived by myself. I never had a roommate. I enjoy it, but I spend that time wisely. Like grow. I want to grow. I want to be better. I want to learn how to be a better human every day, and you have to be able to sit with yourself to do that. In my personal opinion, so,
right?
Yeah. Because again, I want to preface this by saying, listen, this is what works for us. I don't quantify myself as an expert in anything in life. I just live, and I learn from what I've gone through, and I do know categorically for me personally that the more praying I've done, the more meditation I've done, the more inner work I've done, the better life's been for me.
Right.
I've had the money and the cars and the women and all those things. Like, it's not fulfilling if I'm not fulfilled.
Right.
That doesn't fulfill me.
That's real. Yeah.
It's just like a crutch.
It really is. I would call it the Band-Aid. Sometimes you can have external success and it can mask some of the deficiencies you have within your spirit. Yeah. And sometimes it can actually accelerate it, meaning like I feel like the only thing success really does as far as on a monetary basis is it makes you a greater expression of who you already were. So sometimes you see people, they get wealthy, and then all of a sudden they start doing really irresponsible things. But the truth is they're only doing what they always wanted to do. They just didn't have the means to get it done.
That part.
So it doesn't, when they say money is the root of all evil and stuff, that's actually not true. Money always comes from God's blessing, especially when you're getting the money within your purpose. However, it will unlock parts of yourself for good and for bad that will allow you to truly become a full expression of who you really are. And you'll discover things about yourself with that power that you may not have been aware of because it was circumvented by your circumstances, not having enough power or immunity towards certain, consequences to actually, be able to express those parts of you. So I would just say that fulfillment, like building a connection with yourself, is not just to have more fulfillment in your life, but it's also to protect who you really are so that when you do come into these blessings, you know how to handle it responsibly within your purpose, within your alignment. So yeah, that's definitely number one, which is why we spend a little more emphasis on it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't nail that part down, these other things are very secondary to it. So make sure you pay attention to number one. Number two is fitness. Movement is medicine. Fitness is more than just getting in shape and building your aesthetics. It actually changes your body chemistry and it gives you a certain level of confidence you just can't get from anything else. Fitness is one of those things where it helps you strengthen your mind and actually provides a certain level of self-care that you just can't get from buying a car or buying clothes. It's something that you do for yourself as an act of self-love. And yes, the exchange is pain and discomfort, but you're doing it for the greater good. And it builds a certain confidence, it builds a certain swagger, and it also teaches you persistence, consistency. It teaches you how to set boundaries because you can't get fit unless you learn how to say no. In fact, what I want to say is no is one of the most powerful words you could ever learn. When you learn how to say no, you protect your goals, you protect your destiny, and you set boundaries that are in alignment with your purpose. A lot of times it's not that people don't want to get fit, right? Part of the problems is that they just don't know how to say no. They're at a party with friends and everybody's having birthday cake because it's Susie's birthday. You barely even know Susie. But guess what? You're eating cake because you want to fit in. So one thing about being fit is that you actually do not fit in because most people aren't fit. And the reason why, they're not is because most people tend to have that wanting to fit into what everybody else is doing.
I agree.
Mediocrity is not sexy. Fit is, and if you're fit, you're not going to fit in. You're not going to do what everybody else does. You're not going to eat what everybody else eats. You're not going to have the same, activity habits as everyone else. You're going to take it up another notch, which is why you're fit. You're standing out from the rest. You're not average. So I would say double down on fitness because it's going to separate you from the rest of the pack and give you a higher level of discipline that can transfer in other areas of your life. My personal take.
I would say eat the cake.
Let them eat cake.
I'm gonna eat Susie's cake because I love. But honestly, like there's like life is about balance. Like all of these rules and guidelines that we're giving you guys, you can't do them perfectly. Especially there's so many rules in life, and it's like then you're chasing perfection, and we all know you can't be perfect. So it's like life is holding yourself accountable, but also doing and performing and adhering to these rules you give yourself, but with balance. So it's like I work out so that I can eat Susie's cake. That's why I work out, because I don't work out to be the fittest guy everywhere I go. I work out because it makes me feel good. It gives me confidence, and I love food, and I can eat Susie's cake. But if you don't work out at 5 in the morning like me and Q do, and go 5-6 times a week, and you haven't been working out since you were 16 years old, and like that's the balance I have, but I've earned that balance, and that's the difference. Like Q was very, he's one of the most disciplined people I've ever met in my life in that area of his life. You're welcome. And it's beautiful to see. And it's like, could I do it? Sure. But I work out so hard so that I can eat Susie's cake if I choose to. But that decision is a decision, and I'm able to make that decision because of all of the work that I've done. So I can be balanced, right? I can, and sometimes I want to eat Susie's cake because I'm like, I was home for a few weeks and Mom cooked a lot of food for me, so I'm gonna say no this time. Balance.
Right. That's real.
Yeah.
And discipline is not perfection. To his point, it's not perfection. It's just boundaries. It's clear standards, clear boundaries. And guess what? There's different levels of discipline, right? It's not like there's one level of discipline where you never make mistakes. It's like, no, over the years, I've become more and more disciplined, and I've set more and more boundaries, but it's also because I'm battling against Father Time, right? Your body, what you can get away with in your 20s, you can't get away with.
How old are you?
When you hit,
you want to talk about it? Because you got a
32 now.
You look 32. I'll give you that.
Turning 39.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
In about a
coming
week.
up. Yeah.
Turning 39 in about a week, and I've learned over the years, I just can't get away with as much dirt as I could. So I had to make choices like, am I willing to upgrade my level of discipline to sustain this standard of fitness? And there's always a choice, right? You know, you miss out on more things, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I will say this, if you're in a spiritual alignment with that discipline, you don't really feel like you're missing out.
Correct.
You know, there's people that are at the party that wish they could have had, you know, whatever, the cake and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, there's moments where I do it too, because I'm much like you, where it's like, I know if I did a certain amount of work, I have a cushion to be able to do these things. But if it's like on a day where I told myself that this is a clean day where I'm going to eat clean or go on my juice
You won't
cleanse,
break it.
yeah, I won't break
You won't
it.
break
I
it.
can't break it. There's nothing I can do. So the way I view fitness is kind of like a credit card. Like I remember I had a client that was watching other people work out and they were kind of fit, and she needed to drop about 70 pounds. So she's looking at them and she's like, man, this is unfair. I can't believe I got to go through all of this. And they're sitting there fit and running on the treadmill. And I had to explain to her, I was like, well, you know, fitness is kind of like a credit card. You know, when you were at home, you know, eating chips and enjoying a movie and eating ice cream and not working out, and Susie Cake, and you weren't working out for those 2 or 3 years that you weren't working out, these people were on the treadmill, you know, suffering, sweating, out of breath, eating healthy, juice cleanses, and so forth. It's kind of like a credit card. They were paying their credit card on time. But with your health, you weren't paying those payments on time. You defaulted. You said, no, I'm gonna put it off. And you know what happens when you put off a credit card, right?
Yeah,
that interest. It starts accumulating. You're like, okay, cool. So when you finally decided to address that credit card issues, the balance plus the interest is what you have to pay when you try to get back in shape. And I would say that with anybody, is like, to a certain extent, fitness is fair. Yeah, we all have different genetics, but the same founding principle is the more you neglect your body, the bigger the balance is going to be later on. So I was like, now you're just paying your dues. You just don't like what the balance came up to. But you had your fun. You had a lot of fun.
You just paid your bill every month.
It would have been. It's way easier to pay every month. Anybody with credit cards knows, like, if I just would have paid on time, if I could have, I wouldn't have had to pay this plus that penalty, those penalty interest fees and stuff like that. So same thing. Just find those boundaries. Stay consistent. And if you do happen to fall out, it happens. Life happens. Sometimes people go through trauma, you know, loss of a family member, divorce and stuff. Things happen sometimes and knock you off your pivot. But you have to be willing to love yourself enough to go back and pay that balance off so that you can put yourself back in a good place.
And what she failed to realize is those people that she's like, oh, this is unfair, they have equity.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing it and they've been consistent and they've been dedicated and disciplined. So it's like, don't look at someone else and play the woe is me victim when it's like, they're in here, they've been doing this consistently, and you've been doing what you've been doing.
Right.
But before we move on to 3, I have a question for you, because I know what fitness does for me. Like, what do you feel like fitness does to your mental? Because we didn't talk about that, like the correlation, because for me, man, like it's everything. I don't care if I got the baddest chick ever in the bed. Like, in the morning, I'm going to get up at 4, I'm going to do my regimen, I'm going to go to the gym, because if I miss it on a day that I'm supposed to be there, like on a day where you're like, this is my meal plan, I'm not cheating today, don't care if I'm at a party with drinks and food, I'm not doing it. That's how but I'm disciplined in the sense where it's like, if I'm supposed to be in the gym, I'm going to the gym no matter what. But what it does to my mental, it's like, it's just a reset. Every time I go to the gym, I just feel, it's like when I go home, when you're always like, you're happier now, you spent time with your mom and your sister and your dad, it like recalibrates me. That's what it does to my mental when I go in and hit the weights or run 2 or 3 miles or whatever. So what do you feel the biggest advantages for your mental and your mindset when you work out?
Absolutely.
What does it do?
I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that in general, fitness bulletproofs your mind, because, you know, the most painful physical activity you will go through on a regular basis is fitness. You know, you're signing up to put your body through physical pain for the greater good. So the more that you do it, the stronger your mind gets. It gets accustomed to pushing through pain. And if you can do fitness, it's like you can definitely write the book.
Absolutely.
You know, you can definitely, let me bounce over here and do that, because you have an energy storage in you where it's like, well, if I can run 5 miles in the streets out of breath, I can go and do these things. It kind of makes everything else smaller when it comes to the energy expenditure you have to put out to make things happen. Because a lot of people just don't have a lot of energy to play with, and their minds are not that strong.
Agreed.
So the moment they face adversity, they tap out.
The world's ending.
My mind's just not built. And on a scientific basis, when you work out, there's a thing called the frontal cortex.
Yep.
This part of your brain is responsible for you being able to do something that you emotionally don't want to do, but that you have to do
ripping and
it.
tearing your muscles every day.
Yeah, i.e., tearing your muscles
Uh-huh.
every day, but then that part of your brain develops where you get it done anyway,
Yep.
which is really just the discipline part of the
Mm-hmm.
brain. You develop that every day through fitness. So what you're doing is you're building the discipline part of your brain, which can go and transfer into other areas of your life because you're used to activating it through fitness.
Yep.
Now, do we have the perfect amount of discipline in every part of life? No.
Mm-mm.
We both can attest to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But we know how to turn it on when we need to for other areas of our lives.
Yep.
And now, in my personal journey, I can say I'm just starting to turn on the nodules for other areas of my life and apply those same principles from fitness to, finance, to business
Mm-hmm.
strategy, to this channel, things like that. And I'm saying, yo, I already have the principles. I just have to transfer it over to other areas of my life that needs a little bit more nurture. So I would
Yep.
say, for me, it bulletproofs my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It feeds the discipline part of my
Yep.
brain. It gives me an identity. It allows me to feel strong within myself. So even when I'm going through spiritual battles, when I
Mm-hmm.
look in the mirror tells me something different. It says, no, you're strong. Like, you might be going through this, but actually you're strong, so you should be able to get through this. And I feed off of that. So sometimes your own physical presence, when you build an identity through fitness, can actually help you in times where you feel weak. You look up and you're like, no, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this for years. If I can get through this, I can get through this. So
And it's not even just the physical part. Like you look in the mirror, I got an 8-pack. You got you know what I'm saying? You got the 8-pack and the muscles and stuff. But it's like you're making a conscious decision to go to the gym and do something that you really don't want to do.
yeah,
I don't know many people that like love going to the gym. I'm not one of them anymore. I used to, but I
yeah,
played football and I'm gymmed out. Because
right,
it doesn't matter if I take 2 weeks off. Like I have so much equity that I don't necessarily have to be there every day anymore.
right.
But it's the conscious decision to go every day or every other day or 6 days a week or whatever it is that shows how mentally strong I am, and that's what fitness has done for me. So
Right.
I love what you said. So let's move on.
I have to add one more thing
Yeah.
to it, though. I will say this: people make the misconception or misperception that like trainers just love going to the gym. They're meatheads. They're like, you guys just love pain. You guys are weirdos.
Right.
It's like, no. I mean, granted, are there moments where I love the gym? Yes, but to your point, there's times where I've sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes. Like, I don't want to do this shit today.
Yep.
Because as you get fitter, the maintenance behind it, like what you have to do to stay there,
Yeah.
becomes harder because you're working against time.
Yep.
So there's plenty of times where I sit in the parking lot and I'm like, I don't want to do this shit. But I think the difference is we know what to tell ourselves to activate that discipline muscle to get it done anyway.
Absolutely.
And that right there can be the difference between launching the business and not launching the business. Taking the business to the next level or playing it safe and playing small. Having a relationship that could not work out, but you made it work out because you stepped up or you guys both stepped up together. Whatever it is, it can be the difference maker, which is being able to get yourself to do something, not because you're motivated, but because you're determined.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. You don't have to be motivated to be fit. In fact, motivation alone won't get you there. It's going to take determination and really doubling down on your spiritual beliefs about how much you care about yourself and what you want from life.
Yeah. All those words: determination, dedication, consistency, discipline. It takes a lot. So, all right.
Solutions. So this is what I recommend for anyone who's not in the journey right now. 3 days out the week, I would say,
Like
30
that.
minutes.
Yep.
It's only 30 minutes out of your day. A lot of people say they don't have the time. The truth is you had 24 hours a day. What's happening is you decided other things were more important. And you have to call a spade a spade. You feel like there's no time, but really what it is you're saying, I'm going to allocate my energy towards other things because this is not as important as getting my health together. And I get it because you can go to the gym today and it's not going to change your life. Fitness is always a long-term investment and you have to believe that it's worth it. It's a worthy long-term investment. So 30 minutes, 3 times a day. And then also I would say definitely spend some time cleaning up your diet. Stay away from processed foods, processed carbs, anything that doesn't come from the ground is an indicator you probably shouldn't be eating that, at least not in your regular diet. And then also hydration, at least 3/4 to a gallon a day. You'll find that you'll have more energy because you'll have more oxygen in your body. You'll be able to eat less because a lot of times you think you're hungry when you're really dehydrated. and then just start from there. Just build some momentum, and then from there, just tackle on things that you know that will help you get to the physique and the health goals that you have. But you have to set a standard, and you have to stick to it. Because if you don't set a standard, then you're going to give yourself an out. And the human mind likes to find outs when it doesn't want to go through pain.
Absolutely.
So that's my advice for that.
Yeah, fitness is Bitcoin. I bet you wish you invested 10 years ago.
That's
all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying.
saying.
For real. All right, moving on to number 3. I'm going to have you introduce it and expound on that.
Yeah. Number 3 is going to be emotional maturity. I really want to call it accountability, but there's some people out there that don't love that word.
Right.
Accountability.
It's under the umbrella.
Let's just call it emotional maturity. It's like just knowing yourself, knowing your triggers, knowing how to respond. So it's like active listening, for instance. You know, what does that look like? People are like, I heard you, I listened. It's like, did you really though? Do you know what I'm saying? Did you seek to understand what I was saying, or did you just absorb it and respond? There's a big difference. So that's emotional maturity to say, okay, what I heard was X, but that's probably not what they meant. So let me ask them if what I'm hearing is the right thing. Like, I was a psychology major, and my sister's an ABA therapist, so like actively listening is huge. It's like really making sure you heard, what you think you heard.
Right.
And then another thing is like emotional intelligence, triggers. Do I have triggers? How am I responding to someone saying that my calves are tiny? You know what I mean? Like, that's a trigger for me. But I like, it shouldn't be a big deal. So it's like being aware of your triggers is going to help you handle, distress appropriately, right? And then another thing is like therapy. It's taboo to go, but that's really the way to do maintenance on a regular basis and do check-ins. Like, I've done therapy. And I've done it maybe 4 or 5 times, and my therapist was like, okay, well, like, you don't really need to be here, but like, and he's like, well, come back, if you ever feel. And like the 3rd time I went, I was like, I felt like I needed to talk to someone objective, because it's like, I have my mom and I have you and I have my sister and whatever, but it's like, it's nice to be able to tap into someone that has no ulterior motive,
all objective,
completely non-biased, and so it's healthy. It's something that you should do, and emotional maturity makes you realize, having emotional maturity makes you realize that, I need to do these things because I'm an adult. Right. It's called adulting. That's what emotional maturity is about, really, is just doing the things that you don't want to do, or that you've given pushback against because it doesn't seem like you need it. It's like, no, we all need a little help in certain areas of life, and that's emotional maturity, is realizing, like, I'm not perfect, and I need something outside of myself, or outside of my friends, or outside of my romantic relationship to make sure that, I am what I should be in this moment of life. So those are some of the things that I feel are really important. And then lastly, another big one to me is just like pausing before you react.
Yeah,
that's real emotional maturity, because I was a firecracker back in the day, but I have grown in that area of life. And I pause before I think about, like, is that in the grand scheme of life? Right. Is this really a big deal? Is what this person said, or is getting cut off in traffic, or is the waiter saying something smart, or not coming back with the right? None of that stuff matters. Right. Really, it doesn't matter. So just pausing and saying, okay, I have the emotional maturity to know that this isn't a big deal. And I think emotional maturity is rare. Like, you hear everybody on podcasts talking about sex life and this, and women aren't shit, and men aren't this, but no one talks about the things that matter, like emotional maturity. Because a lot of the problems that we want to just continuously talk about and pit men against women about, what does it stem from? It stems from the lack of emotional maturity. For sure. Men don't understand women, and women don't understand men. That's the problem, really. Absolutely. So it's something that's rare, but it should be discussed more openly and in a format that's non-confrontational, so that people can really get to the root of the issue and say, okay, that makes sense. Like, I do need to do better. I need to understand. But you feel like when you have, this is some basic stuff, but like you're having your periods coming, so you have your cravings, and you have the pain, and you want to sleep, and you might be a little agitated. You might have 5 or 6 personalities. I don't know. Every period for a woman is different, but it's like having the emotional maturity to recognize my woman is, okay, she's going to be a little off for 4 or 5 days. Instead of saying, oh, she's acting, it's like, no, she's being who she is. Yeah. And if your man's the provider, he's the one, paying all the bills, and he comes home and he doesn't want to play with the kids 10 seconds when he walks through the door, give him that grace to let him decompress. And, like sometimes a man will want to decompress in a certain kind of way, whether it's with his wife or to just go grab a water and sit down and be in silence after working for 10 to 12 hours. And it's like, well, he doesn't care about us and the kids. And it's like, he does very much. He's just trying to decompress from the 12-hour workday.
Right.
So it's like understanding one another. That's what we need to work towards. I'm very passionate about this.
I know. We got to make a whole episode
about this. But the emotional maturity is like recognizing that your emotions are getting ahead of your logic.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I think taking that half second before you respond, really before you respond, is the difference between reacting and responding. When you take a few seconds, you filter it through who you are, what you want, what you want the outcome to be, what your purpose is, and then you give a legitimate answer that's based on what your real goals are, which should be resolve.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you react too quickly, you're reacting out of trauma or triggers instead of saying, hey, I see the trigger, I see why this bothers me, but what's really happening, like have a little bit more objectivity about what's really happening, because most of the time, most quarrels are misunderstandings.
Yep.
And just try to solve the misunderstanding with patience, because it'll get you to the solution faster. Because one thing I will say, and we'll move on pretty quick, but one thing I will say is that you can't take back words. And so sometimes you respond out of anger.
Yep.
And you might have been right about the way you felt,
Yep.
but because of the way you handled it, you can never get that level of respect back. You can
Nope.
never get that time back. And once you put a label on someone, you kind of affect the quality of the relationship, because these people, we don't forget what someone called us or said to us, even if it was in a moment of anger. So we can't use emotions as a reason why we get to, disrespect someone or call them a name or do something derogatory, because we're no longer kids. We're emotional. We're emotionally mature, where we should be able to process how we feel and then say what it is we really feel out of love and out of trying to find peace and resolve. So
Absolutely.
That's why
And also emotional maturity is knowing that maybe your wife or your significant other doesn't need a solution. They just want to vent. Because women often don't.
Sometimes it's just let them go.
Because we're wired to like, let's fix it. Let's get to the solution. And sometimes they just want to come and say that Sally at work, she hates her and she doesn't like her. And I don't need to say, hey, well, do this, and this to fit. It's like she just wants to tell me she doesn't like Sally.
Right.
And all I have to do is sit there, listen, and say, okay, you good? You need anything? And that's it.
Yep.
And not be upset that she didn't want to resolve.
Yeah.
That's emotional maturity too, right? Like I'm getting in my feelings because my girl doesn't want me to fix the problem.
Right.
To her, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
To me, I made it a problem. So it's like having that emotional maturity to know when you're deficient or doing something that is unnecessary as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay, so number 4.
Yeah.
Number four.
What is it?
Confidence and presence.
Ooh.
It's very, very important to make sure that when you step in a room that people can feel your confidence and presence, because it's a billboard for attractiveness. It allows good opportunities to come to you. It allows you to get closer to your purpose and your destiny easier with less resistance, because you're confident within yourself. How do you build confidence? That's the $1 million question, I would say. Building confidence, if you break down the word confidence, it means to confide with yourself. And what that means is to build trust with yourself. Now, the quickest way to build trust with yourself is to actually make commitments and have standards within yourself, your own personal identity, and stick to them. So, for example, if you say you're going to work out 3 times a week, make sure you work out 3 times a week. Because the more you keep your promises to yourself, the more you build trust with yourself, the more you start to believe in yourself, the more you start to have confidence in yourself. You start to walk different, talk different, act different. Now your word is bond, and your word is a huge part of your character. People trust people who keep their word. People who keep their word have credibility. People who keep their word can manifest things. They are manifestors, because if they say you're going to do something, there's a 92% chance it's going to happen. So start with yourself. You don't have to start off with major, huge goals that are hard to defeat, but set a standard. Start building out who it is you want to be, but make sure you keep your word. Make sure you don't overpromise. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver, but don't say you can do something and then consistently let yourself down and wonder why you don't have the confidence when you step in the room. Presence, specifically, I think has a lot to do with the overall package, internally and externally. It's hard to have a lot of presence and confidence if you don't take care of yourself. You know that if you don't take care of yourself and you don't actually have good health habits and you don't work out regularly, you're setting a limit on how confident and how present you can be because you're not the best version of yourself. You know, so when you're taking care of your physical health and your mental and spiritual health, and you're keeping your word to yourself on the things you committed to for your own good, that is the best way to build confidence and presence.
I agree. I don't really have much to add to that. I mean, it goes back to the acronym that I told everybody, CAPE, right? CAIPP, confidence, authenticity, intelligence, presence, and purpose. Like that's it's huge, but you can't get to this confidence part that he's speaking of if you don't love yourself, right? So like connecting to yourself first, and if you're not indulging in this fitness journey and you're not taking care of yourself, you'll never be able to really truly feel confident. You can fake it. Like they say fake it till you make it, but like, do you really want to? I don't think so.
Right.
Because it's not authentic. It's not real confidence. It's like people can see through you.
You know what I see a lot of? I see a lot of people use a lot of external things to validate their confidence.
Absolutely.
So they'll get the new
Gucci
house
belt.
or the Gucci belt, or they'll, make another $100,000. They're like, I am confident because I make a lot of money. And it's like, yes, I'm not going to say that doesn't build a degree of confidence because you trust yourself in those areas. But when it comes down to the more internal things, like how you feel about yourself, from how you take care of yourself to your connection with God, if those things are lacking, there'll always kind of be a hole in who you really are. And so I would say definitely work on those parts too, because they're just as important.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Lastly, number 5. Take it, AC. What's number 5?
I got you. It's style, grooming, and personal aesthetic. All the other 4 help kind of get you to here. And I'm gonna tell a little story before we dive into the stuff. So it's about you. So Q.
Oh, okay.
We met working at Verizon about 15, 16 years ago now. And my God. So he had a motorcycle. So he would show up to work all wrinkled, like all the time. But it was because he was riding his motorcycle.
The little vest.
Yep. And then he had these like janitor keys on his hip that were like, it was like
every key I ever had in my life.
No exaggeration. It was like 25 keys. And then he would walk around, they'd be clinking all over the place. So when we got cool, I finally was like, bro, you gotta get rid of these keys, my boy. And so I've always been kind of, look, I'm no fashionista, but like I got my legs out today. Shout out to Cam Newton. Look,
you got pretty legs, man. Oh man,
clearly you're doing legs.
I got the quad, do legs, but that like you gotta feel confident in what you're wearing, like whether it's the short shorts or the man purse, all the things. People used to laugh at me. You included.
I did.
Plus, it's not a man purse; it's called a satchel.
We were just talking about that.
And I've always kind of been ahead of like the
fashion
trends, forward. Like at the time, it was tighter clothes, like the European fitted look. Now it's the baggy look, but it was like when it was a fitted look, my boy was like, oh, you're wearing the tight stuff. And it's like, because this is the trend, but you have to feel confident in it. So I told him, I was like, bro, first of all, we got to get you out these baggy like Dickies and stuff. You got to get these keys off your hip. He's like, no, I love this. This is how I like to dress. And then I remember one day he showed up for an event or something. He looked fly. I was like, oh, he upgraded. The keys were gone. The clothes were fitted. Like he looked fly. I was like, okay. I was like, well, it took you forever.
It took me a few years.
Did it?
Definitely a few years behind.
But again, like fashion and aesthetic is very important because it coincides with your confidence and feeling good and the things that are important to you. And so like a couple easy ways to just stay ahead of it is like decluttering your wardrobe and just like removing stuff. Like fashion, again, it's a trend and it's cyclic, and like now the baggy jeans that I wore a long time ago are now in again, but it's like there's certain things that will never come back. So it's kind of like, get rid of those things, but like
the 50 Cent tank top. I was walking down campus like I'm bubbling.
That's one of them.
Gotta let that go.
You gotta let that one go, man. But the things that you don't need anymore, get rid of them, declutter it, so you know what you have. Be very organized. That's one. So I mean, when it comes to like fashion, style, and aesthetic, like your grooming goes along with that. So like bad breath, can't have it. And
Right.
I'm gonna call you out on it if you have it. Like, all right, bruh,
Hey,
you need
man.
a tic tac. You know, taking care, like the things that people want to put labels on, like, oh, that's kind of girly. Like, I get manicures and pedicures
Right.
every 2 weeks. I get my eyebrows threaded. I go buy new clothes and new shoes and new things when I need them. It's like men you have to take care of yourself. And it's like once I started doing that, which was a long time ago, I realized like this is awesome. Like I get why women do these things. It's not just like to look good. It makes you feel better. You feel like, oh, I'm taking care of myself. I'm grooming myself.
Right.
When I'm sitting there and I'm getting my feet done, my nails done, and getting a shoulder and neck massage, like it actually feels fantastic, right? So it's like those are things that should become second nature, so that you feel good about yourself. But just natural grooming things, you know. So yeah, take care of yourself in that regard. Another thing I'll say is like finding your signature style. Like we don't dress the same. You know what I mean? But we look fly when we go out. So it's like I have a signature style. So sometimes I'm gonna wear shorts. Sometimes I'm gonna wear a hat. Sometimes I'm gonna have a bandana. Sometimes my hair's gonna be down. But I know what like. There is a certain style I have where someone was like, "Oh, that's AC." Like he will rock that. All right. And I have a homegirl that's really, really a big fashion. Like she does all the celebrities and all the things. And even shout out to my boy Lawrence Roach, Law Roach. He's a stud. He taught me a lot in the game too, of fashion, simple as more, sometimes things like that. But like just finding something that makes you feel comfortable. Because like when you look at what do they just have, the Met Gala. Where like those people like
the contraptions.
Yeah, man, it's like that's what you don't want to feel like when you get dressed. Like we get that there's an intention behind that, like it's telling a story, it's whatever. But like when you go out and you wear something, you should feel comfortable wearing it. You should feel fly. And I think sometimes people try so hard to be fly. It's like you don't even look natural in what you're wearing. So like find the balance. Again, life's about balance. Find the balance of you know and find your signature style where you're like, this is me. If it's wearing sweats, have the nicest, newest sweats. You know what I mean? Like if you like to wear hats, get a nice crisp hat. Like make sure like you find what makes you feel good and stick to it. And then you know we already touched on like the grooming aspect, but again, there's some nasty people out there. So I would say, groom, you know, groom regularly. Get the edge ups. Get your beard trimmed. Look presentable because. Again, you're the walking billboard, so what you put off is what you will receive. You can't go out to a bar and try and pick up chicks and look ridiculous. So it's like, take care of yourself. Pay the $50 for the haircut. Like I know it used to be 10 when we were kids, but it's 50 now.
It's inflation.
It's 75 in some places, even 100. But it's like that's just.
It smells good. Women
good.
can smell things way more than men can. So they're very sensitive to smell. You can have the flyest outfit ever, but if you smell like a can of garbage,
man. They will
not gonna go too.
No, she gets a special cologne. It's called Sex Panther by Odeon.
Don't go too far.
Yeah, I'm big on good cologne. So, that's my 2 cents on fashion.
Yeah, just to cap it off, I would say when your outer confidence matches your inner confidence, you're golden. And some of that takes self-awareness about what makes you look fly in the first place. When you wear certain outfits over the years, you start to learn. If you're emotionally intelligent, you start to get certain feedback, right? The world kind of tells you like, yeah, that's dope, you know, or you don't get no attention. And then some of it has to just come from within. It doesn't have to be about getting outer validation either. But I think the balance of the two, paying attention to the feedback, but also paying attention to your internal feedback of what makes you feel confident. If you put the two together, you should be able to figure out what fly looks like for you for a style. But cannot compromise when it comes to grooming, making sure that you look like you're well kept because you want people to know that you love yourself. That's one of the main things you want your style to convey is like, yeah, no, I think I'm the shit. And that's why I'm dressed like this.
That's why I'm dressed like this. Yes, yeah. So I think that's a good place to wrap this discussion up.
Absolutely.
I don't want to feel like we're preaching to you, but there's certain things we're just passionate about. That's why we're doing the show. You know?
Man.
But high level recap, 5 things that make you feel sexier. 1, confidence in yourself, like connecting to yourself, your inner self, prayer, meditation, that's huge. The fitness piece we talked about is number 2, like that's going to coincide with that, feeling good, the mental capacity increasing because now you're dedicated, you're consistent. You know, number 3,
emotional maturity.
Emotional maturity,
make sure you're able to process information in a responsible manner.
Number 4.
Number 4, presence, confidence.
Yep.
Being able to step into a room and knowing You that dude, you that lady, you that queen, you that king.
And then lastly, what we just touched on was your personal aesthetic, your fashion, your style, like just feeling fly, feeling good about yourself and the decisions you're making. So those are the 5 tips. We could have gave you 50 more, but I think at a foundational level, those are 5 things that you can can implement right away and not feel like it's too over the top, too heavy. Connect to yourself, connect to God or the higher being you believe in. I promise you that's a very, very good first step.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, my brother.
Yeah, bro. You know how we do.
Excellent episode.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for watching the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, give us your feedback, and keep it sexy.
Keep it sexy.